plans look fine. I'm not sure if we don't need the presence of the applicant to approve the project, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I look at the plans, they were basically the same as before, and there was nothing wrong with them. So, okay, we'll approve it at the main meeting. So that concludes the consent calendar. Nice, short, and sweet. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
We're going to begin in about 5 minutes. We're just waiting for one more member to show up so we can have a quorum. Thank you.
We will begin the September 19th, 2025 SBAR hearing, and we'll begin with any public comment not pertaining to today's agenda.
We have nobody in our attendees column and no letters submitted for comments off of our agenda. It was brought to my attention that we possibly skipped public comment for our consent calendar review. So we might want to go back to that to open it up.
Okay, well, we haven't formally, okay.
yeah.
But we did let the applicant leave.
Was there anybody on the?
There was someone that said that they submitted public comment letters to me, but I hadn't received any, and we just want to make sure that public comment was covered.
Yeah, we'll cover it because we have not made a motion for it, and so that's normally when we would do it for
absolutely.
When we make a motion for it. But do we have the letters?
No letters submitted.
Okay. Okay, we'll come back to that when we get to consent. Moving on to the agenda status report.
No updates to the agenda status report.
Okay, and reviewing the minutes from September 5th. Do we have a quorum? You weren't here. So it was a short agenda. Let's see if there's any changes needing to be made, and then we'll make a motion next time. Okay. All right, so we will not make a motion on that today until we have quorum. And we'll move on to SBAR members' informational briefings. Anybody have anything? Okay. And staff update. Before we start that, I have a question to staff. I had on my calendar that there's a BAR meeting or something next week. Does that ring a bell? I think it was to review. Said I just had written BAR process meeting. Is there any more detail on that?
Yeah, there's something about the 24th.
Yeah.
that they're-
Oh, October. I put it
I
on
know.
September.
Oh,
Maybe you're right, and I just put it on the wrong. Jonathan, do you know anything about that, or Joe?
I do know that the county planning commission and the Montecito Planning Commission are going to have a informational training that might pertain to that.
Okay.
They'll have it will be at 9 a.m. for County Planning Commission and 1 p.m. for Montecito Planning Commission. Next Wednesday.
So 9 a.m. for.
Maybe Joe can let us know if that's what that is open to BAR members.
Jonathan, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, perfect. We can hear you, Ben.
Perfect. My name is Ben Singer. I'm one of the long-range planning planners. I can give you a little bit more information on the Planning Commission next week if you'd like. And then Joe had also asked me to come today to speak a little bit about the outdoor lighting amendments that were done earlier this year, and I'm happy to talk about that as well.
Okay, great.
So for next week, it is a workshop for the two planning commissions. Like Jonathan said, it's the County Planning Commission in the morning and then the Montecito Planning Commission in the afternoon. That's to go over with both the planning commissions and any of the members of the public that are interested. Your board is welcome to either show up in person or show up over Zoom to learn about it as well for a large ordinance amendment package that we have coming in October. So it'll just be a learning session. We'll have a little bit of breakout time to look around it. We'll have boards prepared and things like that. And then time for questions and discussion as well, but no action will be taken. There is some parts in the ordinance amendments that are about the BAR and design review process. If you'd like, I'm happy to go over some of them right now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the most important change, I would say, is that design review for discretionary permits, so that's things like development plans, conditional use permits primarily, will be only, so just to go over the process a little bit, it comes to your board for conceptual review. And then usually once you've had a significant amount of conceptual review and kind of settled on it, it then goes to the decision maker, be that the planning commission or the zoning administrator. And then it comes back after that approval to your board for preliminary and final approval. Currently, those are all kind of separately appealable. And the change that we're proposing is that preliminary approval after the project approval will only be appealable if it differs significantly from what the decision maker approved. So it goes to the planning commission, they approve a project, it comes back to SBAR, say, and if you then grant preliminary approval, that would only be appealable if it has changed significantly from what the planning commission approved. Currently, it's just broadly appealable right now. We're also making some changes to make the code a little bit clearer, the process a little bit clearer. That shouldn't change the outcome of what the process does. It's just to clarify it. And then we're adding in an exemption to design review for structures that are less than 500 square feet if they are behind an existing structure from the road, or if they're in the back half of the property from the road. So basically, if they're further away from any public viewing space, structures of 500 square feet or less can be exempted from design review. So those are the primary changes to the design review section. If you have any questions, we can do that now, and then I can talk about lighting.
I have a question. Is there a height limit on that 500 square foot design exception?
That's a good question. I can double check. I don't believe we wrote any height limit in. It would just be the height limit of the zone.
Mm-hmm. No, the city exempted everything, I think, regardless of size, under 17 feet from APR review. I remember many years ago. But anyway, it's just the height that is really important. Well,
Any other questions? Okay, I think we can review the lighting.
Yes. If you'd like at some point, I'm happy to share my screen to show the code, but I can just start describing it as well.
I think Jonathan's working on allowing you to share a screen.
Okay.
Okay, Ben, you should be able to share your screen.
Yes. All right. Okay. So what I'm sharing right now, just to give
it
you.
is actually not coming through quite yet.
Okay. I have it shown that I'm sharing. I can stop and reshare if you think that
There it
might
goes.
help.
We can see it
Okay.
now.
Perfect. So this here is the old text, just to give a little bit of context before I go to what the current text is. So this was prior to February of this year when the new text was adopted. So you can see that for the general county area, outdoor lighting was only this A and B section. So it was just all exterior lighting shall be hooded, no unobstructed beam of exterior light directed towards any area zoned or developed residential, and lighting shall be designed so as not to interfere with vehicular traffic. And then this portion C provided a lot more regulations and descriptions, but only applied to the community plan areas of Gaviota, Eastern Gleta Valley, Mission Canyon, Santa Ynez, and Summerland. So going to the current adopted text, we took those community plan sections, expanded on them a bit, and then applied it to the whole adopted for the inland county and inland Montecito areas. The coastal commission is still working on a hearing for this. We expect it to be hopefully November, and after that, we'll get it applied to the coastal zone as well, but currently it's only inland applicable. And so we added purpose language to minimize light pollution and kind of conserve energy, the nighttime sky, and protect neighbors and wildlife. Added applicability that existing lighting that's lawfully installed before this section was adopted does not have to meet these new standards. If someone replaces or installs new lighting, it does have to meet these standards. We have a section on additions and remodels to describe how much you can remodel before you have to replace it. We have a list of exemptions. Most of these are similar to the exemptions in the community plan areas prior, but we added some things like underwater lights. We added a general light fixtures of less than 60 lumens are exempt, and kind of specified, cleaned up a little bit of some of the other ones. Alternative compliance allows flexibility in this at the director's discretion, but it still has to meet the purpose of this section. Then we have a section on prohibited lights. So it's kind of high intensity lights, mercury vapor lights, and uplighting. Added requirements for maximum light levels, primarily for environmentally sensitive habitat areas where there can be no light spillover into ESH areas. And then as well, light levels at property lines where it's determined based on if it's a multifamily zoned or commercial or industrial zone, then you can have a certain amount of light spillover at property lines, or just commercial industrial zones. Otherwise, it's a lower level. So this is any residential zoned area that's not multifamily. You can have a maximum of 0.1 foot candle at the property lines. Then we have general requirements starting with shielding, that all outdoor light fixtures shall be fully shielded or full cutoff, except for with some provisions as being decorative string lights aren't required to be shielded. Lights at building entrances that are under an overhang don't have to be all the time. Some outdoor recreational facilities don't need to be if it would reduce the function of them. And then some partially shielded lights can be allowed if it's obscured and there's a cap on the total lumens that it can have. Any external illumination of, as it says, signs, displays, building identification can be allowed, but it has to meet these same standards. So it has to be top down and directed to shine only downward. There are maximum height limits for lights based on if it's mounted on a building, in which case it can't exceed the height of the building, or if it's freestanding, in which case there are different height limits for if it's next to or within a residential zone, or if it's further away, it can be a little bit higher. There's also some kind of purpose that if it has to be higher, it can be, and that's for things like safety. There may be cases when that's required. Glare prevention is similar to the no light directed off site. So no unobstructed beam lands off site. Traffic safety is a similar provision to one of the old ones, that it can't interfere with vehicular traffic. We also put a limit on the maximum Kelvin. So that's the light. It's usually called temperature, but it's kind of the light color. And that's it. For security lighting, it can't exceed 4,000 Kelvin, and other lighting can't exceed 2,700 Kelvin. There are timing control requirements that lights be off between 9 p.m. and sunrise. There can be lights on a motion control, but those have to be on an automatic shut off to not stay on all night. And then in residential zones, those do change a little bit on the Friday and Saturday time to allow some use of outdoor property. You know, you can have a party on a Friday night that goes past 9 p.m. basically. And then again, safety and security lighting, that's where that motion control comes in. Commercial and industrial zones that aren't next to residential zones are a little bit different as well. Signs shall not be illuminated between 11 p.m. and sunrise. They can be open up or illuminated a little bit longer. And then recreational courts privately are not allowed to be illuminated after 9 p.m. also. We do have some new plan requirements. So basically that these have to be submitted with plans for development, that they have to show the lighting. There's a little bit of difference on this for kind of small projects, owner, builder type things where we're a little bit more lenient, that we don't expect as extensive of plans, but for larger ones, they do need to show everything. And then there's a list of temporary exemptions. These are similar to the old standards for the community plan areas, that temporary lights can have some exemptions as long as they provide certain information to us. That is a relatively quick run through of what the current standards are, and I'm happy to hear and answer any questions that your board may have.
Just off the bat, so these are already the approved standards, and so are you guys looking for any input, or this is just to update us?
This is to update you. If you have input, I can take it. We're not looking to revise these in any time soon, but if there's some input that we think is important enough, we could work that into a different ordinance amendment to update these. But you are correct. These are approved and implemented. The Board of Supervisors approved them in February earlier this year.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. Up early on, I don't know what letter it was, but it talked about exemptions and said lighting under overhangs. Yeah. No, it's
You may be
further up
thinking of
It's
we
numbered.
had lighting under overhangs for the shielded. This section, maybe?
Yeah, general requirements. So are they exempt if they're under an overhang, or what?
They're not exempt. They do not have to be fully shielded if they're under an overhang such that the overhang effectively shields them. So if you think of, it's relatively common, you might have a little bit of an overhang over someone's front door.
Yeah, there almost always is. So
That if the light can be recessed high enough that you cannot see the light bulb from,
okay.
like if the wall part of the overhang blocks the light bulb, then those lights don't need to be fully shielded because the overhang effectively acts as a large shield for that light.
So is that kind of a gray area then? Because typically the review board just looks for dark sky compliant, don't see the bulb, don't see the, yeah. So are we going to be actually trying to look more carefully at whether it's high up under an overhang?
It's tricky to review because
It does.
it'd be very topography driven.
Yeah.
So there are still, because of that, that is something we considered, and that's where some of the other standards, so like the glare prevention, that no unobstructed beam of light lands off site. So if you have a house that's higher up on a hill and it's recessed within that overhang, but you can still see it from below, that would still then violate this portion, and you would have to, or the applicant would have to change it to meet all provisions of it.
Okay. And then the hours of operation, how does that work? Or you were saying after 9 p.m. That's just for tennis courts and recreation? But you said something about people having a party, and so it sounded like it was residential too.
Correct. So this 9 p.m. through sunrise is a general requirement that lights be turned, or outdoor lights be turned off during that time. But then we have this.
The party's over for all residential?
And does that track with noise requirements for the county? It's 9 or 10 for the noise requirements.
I don't remember off the top of my head. Joe, if you remember
I think those
Well,
two
good.
things should agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We did
so
Like,
consider
Yeah.
that.
no
Lights
lights, but
at
you can
9,
keep
but keep
partying.
making noise.
So there is also this next provision when people are present. So the
Oh.
9 p.m. is a general requirement, but when people are present, light may remain on outdoors. And then there's additional for when people are present in residential. So it's a very layered requirement, but this kind of sets, if you have a restaurant with outdoor seating, it may be open after 9 p.m. You're not required to shut all the lights off and kick everyone out at 9 p.m. If it's
Yeah.
open and people are present, outdoor lights can remain on. And then in residential zones, if people are present, if you're outdoors using your backyard, something like that, Sunday through Thursday, the limit is 10 p.m. So you can be out a little bit later. And then Friday and Saturday nights, the limit is set at midnight. When people are present, you can have lights on. So
Mm.
we're trying to encourage
Oh, good.
using your space. You can be out until midnight. At that point, we're trying to encourage taking the party indoors, but that if people are present, you can still be out there. But once people are no longer using an outdoor space, the lights should be off.
But is this enforceable? I mean, there's rural neighborhoods everywhere with people with lights on. They're not getting permits, they just have their lights on. So how does this work?
It's very nuanced for
Yeah.
something that's very hard to monitor. I also just wanted to note that I think the max of 2700 kelvins on most of the lighting is too warm. I think
Yeah.
most manufacturers, the standard kelvins is around 3000. Sometimes we go warmer to 27, but I think putting a cap at 27 is too low.
That is something we considered. We had proposed, so the department had proposed a 3000 limit. The board revised that to 2700 Kelvin at the encouragement from WeWatch, which you may be familiar with, with evidence that 2700 Kelvin is an increasingly common level that light manufacturers are producing. So it's not prohibitively difficult to get lights in that range. But that is something that we discussed at length, and then the board was the ultimate decision maker on that number.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I had a follow-up on with regard to the noise. So the timelines don't exactly line up with regard to noise. So the standards for noise are based on the community plan areas, and they are all a little different, give or take 30 minutes or an hour. And that is generally with regard to construction noise. Once you have an established use, if someone is just being loud based on that use and it's consistent with the use that's approved, that's not something that the planning department would enforce. That's something that like the sheriff's office would enforce if there was a noise issue at that point.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you for the update.
Of course, no problem.
Is there any other staff update for today?
Hi, Madam Chair. No other updates on my end.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and we reviewed the 2 items, and we can open up for public comment. There was no one online when we were hearing the consent items, but if there's anything that's been submitted since.
We have no letters submitted and no people present for public comment. I do want to know, I listened to a voicemail that I had come in from Carol Worth
Okay.
regarding the Hawk Altar edition. There was nothing written submitted, but she did mention that she had concerns about the bamboo that was growing into the right of way.
Okay.
And that was pretty much the premise of her concern.
Okay. All right.
So we reviewed both items, the Holkhauser edition and the Schwartz edition, and we found them acceptable and make a motion to approve both of them.
You want to, just because we had the public comment, do you want to note why we're unable to comment on the bamboo?
Well, we reviewed that last time. The bamboo is in the public right of way, and it's beyond our purview.
Yeah, and there was a planner memo included that clarified that we don't have that in our purview. All right,
So I have that motion. I can separate the motion if you want, or maybe.
it's okay if they're both approvals.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Perfect.
Thank
Okay, we can move into our standard agenda.
Move on to item 1, the Sharuzi Single Family Dwelling request of Ekaterina Svensson, agent for the property owner Sean Sharuzi, here for conceptual review of a 4,300 square foot new residence. There's an existing single family dwelling on the property of 2,400 square feet with garage. The proposed project will require 185 cubic yards cut and fill. It's a 0.3 acre parcel located at 690 Lorraine Avenue in the Eastern Glidden Valley Plan area. The description doesn't clarify if the existing single family dwelling is being demolished for the new residence.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's in the area breakdown. Yes, it's proposed to be fully demolished.
Okay, sounds good. You can go ahead with your presentation then.
Okay, I do want to make a point. We're missing one sheet from that set. It was a miscommunication on my part with the staff, but if at some point I could share one page, which is the exterior elevations, that would help me a lot, but the rest of the set is complete.
Yeah, at conceptual review, you're able to do that. So send it to Jonathan, because you're unable to share your screen, but we can receive things day of for concept review.
Yeah, I'll have my staff send it to Jonathan right now. By the way, there's 2 of me in the Zoom call. That's not second time. That's my associate Brian, who is listening in. So let me start from the beginning. There's an existing 2,400 square foot residence on this parcel, single story, that we're proposing to demolish and build a new 3,600 square foot residence with an attached garage. You can see the location of the parcel. It's abiding a mobile park on the right-hand side. Can I point here or no?
You're able to annotate if you're able to from your
Okay, never
computer.
mind. It's okay. I'll just let you point then. And then the residential development directly adjacent to the parcel. If you go to the site plan, that would help me a lot. You're going to skip through a bunch of sheets of notation in the beginning. Okay, so this is the existing survey showing the existing residence on the corner of Lorraine and Cathedral Oaks. This is the demo plan, so you can see the location of the existing residence right now. I do want to mention that there's we are keeping the location of existing driveway and the location of the garage, even though it's a new, slightly bigger garage. And we're trying to propose the new development expanding towards the east, but it's actually south of the property. Excuse me, the house sits quite a bit below Lorraine Road and Cathedral Oaks, so it's kind of tucked under. There's a 4-foot slope variation, and then the property on the south, which is page east, is quite a bit above the finished floor of the existing residence and the proposed residence. So it's about 6 feet higher up finished floor elevation. So quite a large difference in levels on the east side of the property. If you go to the next page, please. Okay, so you can see this is the expansion on the right-hand side, but the rest of the development kind of follows the footprint of previous residence. The homeowner and his family have handicapped family members. So the program kind of the house stayed more or less the same as the original house, but because of the need for wider spaces and larger bedrooms and bathrooms to accommodate wheelchairs, it kind of just expanded in hallways and bathrooms and kitchen and such circulation areas basically, but it's still a 4-bedroom, 4.5 bath program within the residence. We're keeping the finished floor elevation as well, so we're not raising the house on the property any further. So it still stays kind of tucked in and invisible. Can you go to the next page? Okay, thank you. So yeah, so honestly, the program of the residence stayed the same. We expanded the living room and expanded the two suites on the south side of the property to make it more accessible for them, and just kind of made all the spaces slightly more slightly easier to maneuver around when in the wheelchairs. And of course, we accommodated ADA compliant bathroom, or rather wheelchair accessible bathrooms for those family members. The driveway, we're keeping the same place. We're not expanding towards the Cathedral Oaks at all, mostly for the sound reasons and sound pollution from the road. And we're basically keeping it the same on the page north side, not getting any closer to that mobile park development. Can you please go to the next page? So this is just a pretty simple roof plan. The residence is in Spanish style, which is what the homeowner really loves. So it's going to have the Spanish tile and white stucco. We can actually, I don't know if the planner had a chance to receive the files, so I don't know if you can share the elevation sheet after that. Jonathan, Willow, anybody?
He's looking for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm working on transferring over.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That was quick. Okay. So yeah, so this is the front elevation. This is the top one, the one you see from Lorraine Road. And you can see the grade on the right-hand side, see how it's sloping up towards the adjacent residence. So that grade kind of follows up in the front of the property. So from the road, the house is quite a bit below. And then the side elevations are pretty simple. We're keeping the house 17 feet to the top of the ridge, so it's not too much of a mass. And then the rear elevation is where we have the most amount of glazing with a lot of arched windows. Can you just scroll a little bit more down so we can see the rear elevation on the bottom? Thank you. So this is kind of where they want to create their little private space, private yard area, and have patios and landscaping and such. So that's probably the most glazed elevation. On the left side of that elevation is the master bedroom, and on the right hand side with the double doors is the little office building with an attached half bath and an access to the garage. And then if you scroll down, it's just Brian, what happened to our renderings?
This is the December 2024 set. So if John is able to open the one that was
The
sent.
original set it was submitted to Jonathan that has the rendered views of the, thank you.
The 19 one.
Yeah, this one's correct.
There we go.
Thanks.
It's sheet or page 19.
Okay, yeah. So it gives you a little bit of a better perspective on the massing and the undulations of the floor plan. We also have some thickened walls, as you can see on the front, on the front elevation, 2 windows on the left-hand side of the front entry. This is the kitchen area. So those walls are thickened to 12 inches. So we have deep recesses. We have the same detail at the front entry on both little windows on each side. One is the pantry, the other one is the powder room. So they have deep sloped sills on that facade, and also the same detail on the ADA suite on the right-hand side of the entry. And we're proposing Spanish tile and decorative tile underneath the windowsills, wooden garage doors, just trying to pick up on some Spanish details with a traditional chimney and chimney cap. And the big portion of the project was incorporating arches and arched windows. That was a homeowner's request. So we're trying to pick it up on the front and the back and kind of marry those together with standard windows and doors. And that's it. I think I'm going to sections if you guys want to see them, but sections and door and window details and some exterior details. Might be a little too early for exterior details, but we have at the last pages. Yeah, so we have some start building out standard details and transitions and yeah, windows and doors. So we can go over them if you would like, but we're still in development on those.
Okay. All right, if that concludes your presentation, we'll move on to questions from the board. Okay.
Is there a landscape plan?
No, not yet. We're working on it. I mean, we actually haven't even had a chance to receive the initial feedback from the planner. We got so quickly on SBAR that it surprised us.
So yeah, let me ask the question. What is your open yard? Meaning, how do you envision your outdoor spaces? I would imagine they would be on the east by the canopy.
It would be on the east, yes. There's
But-
existing pretty tall. If you go to the proposed site plan or floor plan, you'll see it there. Yeah,
And
maybe the site plan.
Yeah, I guess the question, how do you deal with the noise? It is really noisy from Cathedral Oaks, or you are
Yeah,
below
so-
grade, that helps.
If you
but,
go on this, page 16, please. So along the Cathedral Oaks, you can see this area of thicker hedge along the Cathedral Oaks in the corner of the property. This is how we're gonna attempt to mitigate it. We're not gonna propose any tall walls or anything in that area. Mainly because this little sliver between the property line you see on the north side and Cathedral Oaks, that little sliver of land is actually not our property. So we can't build or develop on it. But it's kind of a no man's area where it feels like part of their backyard, but technically it's not. So we're proposing just building a hedge there and no further development. And then on the rear side, you can see that the brown line is the existing fence. And that part of the property, the rear of the property, is an easement, a landscaping easement that belongs to the mobile park. So we can't develop in that area either. So we're really kind of left with a little bit of, something's behind the garage and behind the living room. That's kind of all that's left for them to landscape, which is pretty minimal. So the landscape architect is now working on that, but it's going to be very low maintenance due to the physical conditions of the family. So something that doesn't, require too much work and pretty organic.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
One more question. On page east, I guess it would be the north side of the property. You said that that property line there, that's an existing hedge on the sidewalk, or is that a proposed hedge?
There is very kind of dying out existing hedge there. So it's already there. There's planting there. We were hoping to just kind of build on the inside of that hedge to just stop the noise from the road. But again, we haven't had a chance to present the landscape plans or have the feedback from the planning department about whether that would be possible.
I have a question. I didn't look carefully at the materials board, but are you using two-piece mission tile for the roof?
I mean, only due to the cost concerns, we would like to have an option to use an S tile. So that's what's shown on the material board. If it's a must use two-piece, then we'll go there. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Move on to public comment. Is there anyone online?
Okay, if anybody online or in the public would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand in the chat, or we do have one person for public comment. Oh, if you'd like to come up to the podium and address the SBAR. Yeah.
And then afterwards, we'll ask you to fill out a speaker slip just so we have your name for the record.
You'd like to start by introducing yourself, and you all set. You have
Okay,
3
no,
minutes.
sir.
Mohan,
3
can you
minutes.
hear me all right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can.
So I have the residence that is on the south side. Put that down. Better? So, and I have seen the plans and I have no problem. I guess I just have one question. What's the distance between on the south side where the master bedroom in that area and there's the little rise that goes up to my property? What's that distance? I know you were saying 6 feet, but
It's a setback.
I think it's probably not an issue because of property lines.
Question to the applicant, what is the horizontal and maybe vertical
Yeah.
distance to that, is it the northerly neighbor?
So it's
Oh,
abiding the
southern.
setback on the south side. The setback is 10 feet. I don't know what you mean by vertical distance.
Is there an elevation change as well?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
it's like 6 foot in elevation change. Yeah, they're
Okay.
above us. And also that
Right.
side, because it's coming into that slope, that side is retaining, so it's almost halfway underground.
The proposed structure has a stem wall that's so it's partially.
Yeah, so
buried
we're
into
just
the
we're just
slope.
keeping we're just keeping it low enough for egress windows, so it's basically at 42 inches, and the rest of the structure is underground.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the question, and you haven't gotten to the landscaping plan because there are 2 large Italian stone pines on the property now. So I guess that comes later, as to whether the,
We can ask the question now. Are you proposing to keep?
I'm just curious. I don't
pines?
have, Yeah.
If it's interfering with the proposed envelope, then yeah, that will be proposed to be removed. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll
I'm looking at the survey. I don't see those notated on the survey. The only tree that came up on the survey were the ones you see on the front.
Right, on
But
the
we'll
front.
definitely locate them and address them in the landscape plan.
Yeah, they're in the photos. So I think, yeah, we can request clarification with the landscape plan.
Just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks beautiful,
Mhm.
so I was just here to see how this all works and hopefully be kept informed, since it is my home that is going to be right next door.
So the best thing is to find out who the planner is and stay in touch with that way. And because I believe you won't get noticed
Right, that's
for the
what
next
my
time
understanding
unless
is. I
you
talked to Jonathan
talk with the
about
planner. Yeah.
it. So Jonathan, you'll get,
I'll get that information over to when the planners are signed. Yep,
I
absolutely.
think that's all I have, I just wanted to see how the process worked.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that house that's there now is going to be taken down. So that's what kind of went, whoop. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And go ahead and fill out one of those slips so that Jonathan has your contact info. Okay,
And I believe that is it for public comment on this item.
you can ask you can ask a question of the planner. Is the planner online today? It doesn't have someone assigned.
There's actually not a planner assigned to it quite yet.
Okay.
I just had a question. I don't know if anyone online could answer it, but about the public right of way, and I know that this came up on the Summerlin project for the whole Coulter residence. but,
Mhm.
Is it the standing that SBAR has no purview over looking at anything outside of property lines? I don't know that that's been my understanding in the past, or I know Public Works will be reviewing the plantings, but are they not looking for feedback on plant materials and kind of how it's cohesive with the rest of the property? Or are we strictly looking at inside the boundaries of the property line? I don't know. If anyone's-
Madam Chair, I can help respond to that question.
Okay,
So
great.
with regard to SBAR's purview, when a project does not include any improvements within the right of way, and it's just not proposed, that is it is not SBAR's purview to force them to go into the right of way and make improvements, which would require additional encroachment permits and other authorizations. So that's typically when we have a residential project that we would push back and tell the SBAR that they don't have the purview to require that. There are projects that do have improvements that are proposed as part of the project within the right of way, and SBAR does have the ability to make comments on those improvements in conjunction with the feedback from the Transportation Division in Public Works.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question. I'm not sure if I missed in the presentation. What is that trapezoidal form on the left, on the north side of the property? Is that
That's the
right?
no mental land situation. Yeah. So the left-hand side obviously is the right of way, that property line on the
Right.
left of the trapezoid, and then the right-hand side is our property line. And this is so we've been in conversation with Mark Walters and trying to figure out what we can and cannot do in this area. And basically, it's according to him, is the area that we cannot touch, but the county doesn't really have purview of. It belongs, I guess, technically to county, but not really. But yeah, it's kind of a weird parcel here, so we're not touching that area at all.
Can I buy it? Can I purchase this
I don't think
property?
so, because I think technically it's like that due to potential expansion of Cathedral Oaks, and they want to keep it for either utilities or expansion of the road, but not yet belonging to transportation. So I don't think this is something that we can modify, and it wouldn't be worth it, to be honest. I think, and the kind of beneficial thing is that it is currently planted all the way into the line of the right of way. It's a pretty tall hedge, so from the stand of the how it feels and looks on the property, when you stand there, you feel like the left hand side of the trapezoid is your property line. Just can't propose any work there.
Okay.
Could we go back and look at the photos to look at those stone pines and where those are?
Sure. I think, and we're moving into comments now, unless you have any other questions. Yeah. So
Yeah, those are the
one
ones
along-
that are on the plan that
front.
are not disturbed.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Actually, I do want to, the image above, the one that show maybe the first one, the first photo. Hold on. Oh, no, the second one that shows the house, the bottom page. Yeah, you can see the elevation change. Like, this is a really accurate description of how much lower this house sits currently from the neighbor. And the house right now, I think, is 16 feet tall. So we're only going 1 foot taller than that.
Okay. All right, we can move on to comments. You want to start, Val?
I think it's fine. It's a big increase on a pretty small lot. But it's nicely done. I felt the entry form was kind of large in the renderings, but I see in your floor plan, you've put rooms on either side. So it would be hard to redesign that. Yeah, the upper rendering there, it just looks large compared to the rest of the forms. But I guess my main concern would be the roof tile, that it, as big as the house is and as much of a change, demoing the existing house completely, that it should be two-piece mission tile and not S tile. And you're looking down on it too from the road. So
I picked up on the style when I was looking at the drawings online, and yeah, it came to my mind exactly for the same reasons. It's a larger house. It's not an inexpensive house, and yeah, I think the two-piece mission tile is what we have here in as a Santa Barbara trademark, and I think we should stay with that. The only other suggestion I have is to pay a little bit of attention to the space between the top of the arches and the eave. It seems a little tight, especially in some of the illustrations. But so just pay some attention, and I like the recess of the windows, and the more you recess them, the more successful this house will be. Those are my comments.
Okay. Kier?
Yeah, overall, I think it's a really nicely presented project. It looks like a nice house. One question or one comment on the architecture. I agree with the recesses of the windows are nice on the front, and it looks like maybe the back they look a little bit more flat and maybe not as recessed, and maybe that's something we're studying with the arches on the rear elevation. But otherwise, I think it's really nicely done. In regards to landscaping, you mentioned low maintenance, which I think is a great opportunity now to reduce the lawn areas that look like are existing from the existing photos. But I imagine a lot of that's going to get torn up during construction. So look forward to seeing a landscape plan. Otherwise, nice project.
Thank you.
Great. I agree with the positive comments. Can we go back to the elevations? There was one window that I was trying to figure out how it was going to work on a corner. It was on the different file. Jonathan. Well, it was the one that she emailed. Or where did we get those the actual elevations? Oh. Yeah, so my only question was, there's a window on the rear elevation that's like, you have the 5 uh windows with the arch tops, and the one on the right seems like it runs right into the corner. It seems like an odd condition. I realize there's really no public view that's gonna see it, but it caught my eye that I'm not sure that it's
Yeah,
constructible.
If you zoom in, I think you're reading the downspout is the corner, but if you zoom in, there's like 1.5 feet of wall on the right-hand side of the window. Probably easier to see on the floor plan, but yeah,
Okay.
it looks like that from the elevation, but in reality, we can also look into squeezing these
There
things
is depth there.
together.
If it's not an
Yeah.
issue, then it's not an issue. It just caught my eye that it was kind of floating on the corner.
Yeah, it
It
looks really
could,
close.
it could
Yeah,
be
here.
reduced in size. I mean, it could be, like a smaller square windows that will put more emphasis on the 3 round tops.
Yeah, that was, and this is not like a required comment, but just an observation that I think the 3 center arched doorways are effective, but the 2 side arched windows seem less so. And so if it's simpler all around, I think those side windows could be just rectangles and then clean up that corner. But just something to study. It's not a requirement. Okay, any other comments from the board? This is here for conceptual review. I think it just needs to come back for prelim once we see the more of the site planning and landscape plan.
So, there's probably attic venting, maybe like on the, there's one on one side, the one missing on the south. I would imagine they would be larger and maybe more decorative. Just minor details.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, they're definitely, we can look at the scale of those and make them, a little bit more prominent, but they are non-functional. They're purely decorative. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll see you when you return for preliminary review of
Thank
the
you.
landscape plan. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to item 2. Was there something going on with item 2? Great.
Okay. Okay, we'll
Yeah,
begin with
did
item
we
2.
get the public comments information?
Suzanne?
She's going to do that now?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe she's going to do it now. Okay, great. Okay, moving on to item 2, the Fisher Lawson workshop. Request of Mark Mirando, agent for Don Lawson and Kevin Fisher, here for final review of a second floor addition with deck and entry cover of approximately 490 square feet. The following structure exists on the parcel. Currently, there's a single family dwelling with attached garage. The property is a 0.25 acre parcel located at 4838 Winding Way in Santa Barbara. It's been heard a couple times in the previous comments where addition, mass, bulk, and scale are reasonable. Thoughtful use of material and colors could integrate the second story addition better, study ways to improve fenestration, return with more detailing that helps to integrate the architecture and break up the second story box appearance. Location of windows are appropriate. Consider adding trellis or architectural feature between garage door and windows. Restudy paint colors, return with paint sample that better represents the proposed color. Provide site plan showing footprint of structures on adjacent properties. Include existing and proposed screening hedges on site plan. Incorporate additional screening hedge on the west side of property. So you can go ahead and state your name and present anything that's changed since the last time we saw this.
Okay. My name is Kevin Fisher, and unfortunately, the architect could not be here today. So I'm on my own here, a little bit out of my purview.
Okay.
So I'll do the best I can. I think that most of the issues have been addressed. A4, picture A4. Yeah. So we added the hardy board to have a horizontal siding to help break up the second story from the top of the garage. There's also a line there that depicts the trellis or the eyebrow that was suggested. And there are further details of that on in the presentation. But I think that those were the two main things structurally that you wanted us to expand upon. So the hardy board and the trellis were added to address that box on box type of view. A4A shows the trellis on the plate line. And so I do not know how to read this, but those were the notes that the architect left for me as far as depicting that trellis further. A4B has the eyebrow detail and also a breakdown of even the deck. And if you want to see that, you also wanted to know the distance between the back of our property, 4838 Winding Way, and the back side of the other property that has the screening preference, and that would be 326 El Gaucho. And that is a 60-foot, sorry, go ahead here. That's A8, yeah. Yeah, so there's a 60-foot distance and a 31-foot distance between the backs of those two homes. And they kind of, they both combine to form one corner of our property. So in other words, 326 El Gaucho is kind of in the middle back third of our property, and 340 El Gaucho is the other side. And so neither one faces directly into our yard. A9, you wanted us to address some screening from the 326 El Gaucho. And yep, so we are suggesting some bottle brush trees, specifically callistemon species, for privacy. And I do want, none of these pictures and none of these illustrations really show what that back fence looks like, because that fence is a 6.5-foot fence. And then the neighbor at 326 El Gaucho applied a 5-foot top trellis on the top of that fence to further create some privacy for his property. So my suggestion would be two of those trees placed half on, or to one corner of 326 El Gaucho and the other corner of 340 El Gaucho, which would act as a privacy screen. And my architect did not discuss a color with us. I know that you guys did not like that green shade. So unfortunately, I don't have a color swatch to show you of what's proposed. I know that we're going to do some type of sandstone looking color and not the green that was on the first plans.
Will it be similar to the existing color of the house? There's like a cream color on the house right now?
Yes.
Okay.
The house is actually the green, but the garage is still a sandstone beige color.
Okay. And is that what you're proposing to match?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to questions from the board. Yeah.
Yeah. Will the siding be a different color?
Oh, will the hardy board be a different color on the second story, or would it all be the same color?
Well, I guess we could do either one. If you're suggesting that we make it all the same color, we can do that. We'll just paint it all this. The hardy board's already kind of that color because we have that on our shed right around the corner. But I don't know if it's exact. So.
Okay. And the comment.
Yeah, we'll move on to comments in a second. Any other questions?
a really quick question. Are you pretty partial to that shrub that you guys are proposing for the screening? Is there a reason that that one was chosen?
You know, I looked online trying to come up with different styles. It matches the shrub that's right to the right of that second tree. There's a bottle brush tree right there, which these are, in my opinion, they're not very good photos. But there's another bottle brush tree right there, so we were trying to match that.
Okay.
Because I know that you had suggested podocarpus like the other side.
Bigger.
And
It's okay. That's fine. Thank you for the
okay.
description.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience or online?
We have nobody in the audience or online, and we have no letters submitted for this item.
Okay, we'll close public comment and move on to comments from the board. We'll start with Alex.
Yeah, I think the color of the siding should be different from the color of the plaster.
Oh.
I would probably, I'm not sure what color the plaster is now, but one of two has to be substantially darker than the other. You know, that's usually the way it works. And also I think the detail of the trellis, that I think the details down there at the bottom. Yeah, well, there it is. I think it could be longer. You know, the upper part of the trellis, it could extend another foot. The header could move out a little bit more. So there's really more substantial. Right now it looks like it's 18 inches or something like that. I'm not sure, but it could be, maybe I should point.
Okay. How much further specifically are you suggesting?
Well, I'm not sure what it is now, but maybe like 3 feet or something. Yeah, something more substantial.
Okay.
Yeah. The extent from the wall, but I don't want to design it for you. So
Oh, no,
just look at it. But right now it looks like it's just very limited. It wouldn't cost you any more, by the way. It's the same price. It's just a little bit more wood. Yeah.
Okay, Val, any comments?
Yeah, I agree with that comment. You'll get more shadowing and three-dimensionality out of extending the eyebrow trellis
Okay.
a little further. I also agree that the hardy board should be a different color than the lower part, and that probably darker is better for the siding.
Mhm.
And then the plaster. And, you know, you could go into a warm gray but you should get your two colors working together, and you could make that a nice feature.
And specifically, you're speaking of the hardy
The
board.
hardy board,
being
the
that
siding.
darker color
Yeah.
slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, depending on your windows, are they white right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe your trims and your trellis are white and your windows are white, and then do a rich darker color on the siding.
I got you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with all those comments. I think, you know, thanks for responding to all the comments as best as you could. And I think the the screening, I think that specific species doesn't get much taller than the fence, if at all. It gets about 6 feet tall. So I would just suggest that you look at, if you want the bottle brush, there are taller varieties that you can kind of keep more.
Yeah, I saw that it gets up to 15 feet, but if you have a suggestion on a different species, I'm all open to it.
Okay, I didn't, yeah, I saw that it got about 6, more of like a shrub form, but if you're welcome to kind of come back and present that.
Okay, yeah, there were quite a few varieties even within that specific species.
Right.
The Melaleuca and a few
It's a
others.
tough spot because you don't want it to get too wide. You know, you're kind of close to the house, right? So what I was kind of looking for was something that, I think there was a couple neighbor letters, and one of them came from that specific neighbor. And it was really just to help break up the mass of that building against the property line. So if you can find something that gets in that 12 to 15 foot range and stays relatively narrow. Podocarpus was one that could also get a lot bigger, but and I just recommended that because you have it on the other property
Yeah,
line.
but Podocarpus is a nice solution. It gets really tall. And
Right, and you have it on the other property line, but obviously open to other species that just, we need something narrow and taller that kind of gets in scale with the architecture.
Yeah, I specifically also wanted to keep it narrow up against that fence
Right.
because of potential fire hazard, because that's a 10-foot setback and it just starts to get way too close to the house once the podocarpus or
Right.
any other, plant grows towards the house. We're 5 feet off of that.
Right, the callistemon gets pretty wide.
Yeah.
If you're not like really shearing it, so it might not look the best after a while once you're shearing it to kind of keep space for passage.
We've cut that podocarpus back a lot and it just
Mm.
grows right back.
I have a feeling, not to speak out of turn, but that your existing callistemon is probably just a straight viminalis, the weeping bottle brush. So it's like the tree form, which you could use in this case. It gets like a max of 15 feet wide. So if you're right up against the property line, you can just shape it a little to keep it away from the house at its max form. But that might be,
Yeah,
I couldn't read the species that he had, the variety he had.
Captain Cook,
Okay,
and it's not typically available in the area, but
yeah,
it's just a small comment. It just,
yeah,
for you down the road, it's gonna be.
you can find one
an issue.
that'll be successful.
Well, since it's one of the main issues with the neighbor, I don't mind being compliant with what works for them and what works for you. And yeah,
Right.
so.
I think the simplest route will either to be go with one of the two things you have existing. So the podocarpus would be suitable if you are up for the upkeep of keeping it sheared. The callistemon viminalis, which is closely related to what you have on there, is the more tree form, with the same flower, and it gets max 20 to 30 feet high and 15 feet wide, so it's easier to keep in the scale that you,
I see.
yeah.
And you said that was the viminalis?
Yeah.
The mouse. And there's lots of other options, if you want some
Yeah.
free advice, I think, well, we could offer it too, but if you go to a nursery or something, they would be happy to, you can tell them your parameters and they could show you around, but I think it would help down the road for you.
Yeah. Mhm.
Madam Chair, this is for final. I suggest to move it to consent next week, where to address those 3 comments: the colors, the trellis. The trellis and the plant material for the hedge. So you can submit to the building department, but next week come back with the response to those comments.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you'll just coordinate with your architect. He'll need to submit still a week in advance. But it'll be a less formal hearing at the beginning of our meeting. Just 2 people review that the details were added and
Okay.
we give it our final approval.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So no action for today on that one. That concludes our SBAR hearing.
Madam Chair. Diamond.